Huh. I'm going to be totally blunt for a second. Breath of the Wild is my new favorite Zelda game. But if you've watched this channel for a while, you'll know that that's not as big a deal as it may seem. My opinion is that the Zelda series has been largely running in place for the last 20 years or so. My favorite game in the series before this one was Majora's Mask, and it wasn't because the gameplay was innovative or anything, it just dealt with very heavy subject matter for a Zelda game. It was like the Thousand-Year Door of Zelda games. Sure, you'd sometimes get a game like Link Between Worlds that deliberately throws back to Link to the Past, but that game didn't feel like it was really evolving on any concepts. It just felt like an homage to Link to the Past with a pretty neat painting mechanic. Breath of the Wild, on the other hand, feels like the first genuine step forward in the series since 1998, and unlike Skyward Sword, it's a step that I'm really liking. But again, I must admit up front that I am a very weird person and that I like the game for many reasons that a lot of people dislike it. I'm sure you've heard people like Jim Sterling talk about how all the weapons are made out of cardboard and whatnot, but I'm going to posit that that isn't a bad thing. I understand how frustrating it can be to obtain a fabulous new weapon only for it to break after a few battles, but here's the thing. I never minded that. Well, okay, I minded it a few times, but never enough to really break the experience. In previous Zelda games, combat often felt a bit stale. You'd wait around with your shield up for the enemy to give you an opening, and then you'd strike. It's definitely not a bad system, and Dark Souls makes it work by making every single encounter dangerous and exciting, but I just don't get that feeling often in Zelda games. Battles often feel slow and repetitive. But when you get a message flashing that your weapon is damaged, that adds another wrinkle. You have to make a quick decision about how you're going to get rid of that weapon and what weapon you're going to use next. Are you just going to let it break and whip out a new sword? Are you just going to throw it at the enemy and frantically grab their dropped weapon? Or are you going to put it away and never use it again, which I guess is what most people in this situation do, even though it's the least fun option. I mean, I get that it's a cool looking weapon and that you want to preserve it, but at some point you just gotta let it go. Weapons are meant for fighting, not for just sitting in your menu collecting dust. Oh, okay, that's a rant for another day. My point is, you encounter a lot of the same enemies in Breath of the Wild, and while having your weapon break might seem like a haphazard solution to the problem of encounters feeling repetitive, as solutions go, it actually works quite well. Combat in this game feels dynamic, like it could change at any moment. That's cool. I like it. What I do mind is the weather. This game is so fun to explore. Mountain climbing feels great, satisfying, as does gliding around the map or riding your horse around. Hell, sometimes it's nice to just run through a field with nothing but the sounds of nature. It's very contemplative in a Shadow of the Colossus kind of way. But all of that goes away when it starts raining, and you can't climb mountains anymore. Or when a thunderstorm starts up and you have to take off all your metal gear and be left vulnerable to all the enemies nearby. Or when it gets cold or hot and I have to take off all the cool defensive gear I'm wearing just to put on a not as defensive coat or sexually confusing Gerudo outfit. I realize that this is the same solution that Nintendo applied to the combat. Create new conditions to work under so that the combat doesn't feel repetitive. But here's the thing, the exploration aspect of this game doesn't need fixing. It doesn't feel repetitive. There's new stuff around every corner, and there's interesting stuff to find everywhere. You don't need to add weather effects or restrictions just to spice it up. Whew. Okay, I've talked about the few gripes with the game. I do still need to emphasize that of every Zelda game, I do genuinely love this one the most. As I mentioned before, the world is super fun to explore, and there's cool stuff around every corner. Me and a few buddies started up a Discord chat to exchange information and secrets about the game, and we were having the time of our lives. None of us went through this game the same way. This one time I found this ghostly demon horse thing, tamed it, ran it to a stable, and was told that it would curse the whole establishment. This all happened by total accident. I was exploring a mountain when it got super ghostly misty and I found this really cool thing. And apparently it's a tribute to Satoru Iwata, which makes it even more awesome. You know what else I stumbled into by accident? The Master Sword, the honest-to-God, Sword of Evil's Bane, legendary chosen weapon of the chosen hero, Master Sword. And I almost tripped over it after exploring a particularly foggy area of the map. Naturally, I didn't have enough hearts to pick it up at the time, but that gave me even more motivation to go explore shrines and uncover more of the world. It's more organic storytelling than just having Link sit in the corner for 7 years and think about his life. In fact, the whole game feels like that. The whole game makes you feel like you're training for this epic battle with the Calamity Ganon, and it makes for much better theming and storytelling than any of the other Zelda games could muster. Yeah, even Majora's Mask, with its subversive and tragic story, doesn't feel as organic or natural as Breath of the Wild. The game is also more subtle with its lore, which lends it a bit of a Metroid Prime feeling, and if you follow this channel, you know that I just go gaga for that kind of stuff. So yes, while it isn't perfect, Breath of the Wild is definitely my favorite Zelda game, and probably my favorite game of the year so far, though I do say that before getting to Neo, Nier Automata, and also Persona 5. Anything could happen, but for right now, I am definitely a fan of this game. Flaws be damned. If you have a Wii U or are planning to pick up a Switch, then this game isn't one to miss. Go check it out, it's amazing.